morning. Good to see you all. I was going to say, be careful. He's not only a crutch he can beat you with, but he's a Marine. So.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Never.
But be careful, Tom, he knows I have attorneys, so.
Oh, good. I understand. Well, I got Brand over here, who is going to help me with slide presentation and stuff, but I just want to kind of bring up what's going on in the Bethel School District. And there are a bunch of things going on. Before we get into that, though, I just out of curiosity, how many people received notification from the county indicating that your land is going to be rezoned to agricultural resource land, ARL? Anybody?
Well, you got a survey of some kind.
Okay, well, there's a notification out there saying if you're a property owner with land that may be rezoned to ARL, you should have received a notification in the mail. Very few people are going to receive that, although there are a lot of parcels of land throughout the county that are going to go to ARL. About an additional 40,000 parcels of land for a total of over 60,000 parcels of land. The reason that's important is, first of all, most people don't know what's happening. And two, while you may end up with a piece of, my understanding is, you may end up with a parcel of land that'll have a lower tax rate. It'll also have a reduced assessed value, therefore probably reduced retail value, if you want to call it that. But everybody else in the area will have their taxes increase to compensate for the good deal the ARL land will get. So you kind of, change the taxation without representation sort of thing. And there's also some other pretty dire things that will impact. The Bethel School District in particular has land that would be redesignated ARL, and we already have buildings on it. So an ARL basically means it's basically land that can only be used realistically for grazing or for growing trees. But there's real restrictions of what you can do with the land, and once it gets into that category, you can never get it back out again. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, you need to be aware there is a process that's ongoing. It's really being done quietly. There's no big splash about it yet. But there's some huge implications. So if you like zoning stuff, if you like comprehensive plan stuff, if you like the idiocy that goes on with the county, I'm sorry, I've been dealing with them for 14 years now, you might want to put your antenna up and start to listen to what's going on, because there's a bunch of strange stuff that's going to come out of this. Okay, that aside, yeah.
The ARL, what's that represent?
That stands for Agricultural Resource Land. And it's
Tom?
It's crazy. Anyway, yeah.
I was in a meeting, I chair the Land Use Commission, and staff brought in a plan to take a lot of the ARL out of that and move it into 10, 20, 40 acre reserve, which on the outset basically fits more what you're talking about. The drawback on it was, or the argument against it was, probably from those pushing the ARL concept, was that once it goes into that, you may have a farm next to you one day, and the next day you may have a subdivision, and which is always a possibility. However, when we saw it, we weren't real sure what we felt at the time. We were looking into it more too. So.
We just found out about this like 12 days ago, and the more we find out about it, there's more stuff that has not been thought out, because there's some real negative tax implications for the district. Tax rates will go up for most residential property owners and probably all business owners to compensate. And it'll make our passing levies and bonds more difficult. And then there's also the debt limit that we're going to run into, which may be really the big key thing.
There's a meeting tonight at Kapowson Elementary, I think it is.
Well, I saw one. I've heard there's one at Kapowson. I've not seen an official statement from them. There's also in downtown Tacoma. There was one at Eatonville a couple of days ago, and my understanding is it's not a presentation like the guy getting up talking about what's going on. It's displays. Yeah. Displays. If you have a question, I'll try to answer it. So it's kind of like they're going through. I'm cynical, okay? It's kind of like they're going through the formal process, but they're not really saying what the real intent or the real impact of this is going to be. So just beware.
I'm not sure who's pushing the other side, because it was just a few people in the audience that was pushing for the ARL.
It's the county executive.
Tom, if in a worst case scenario your school lands get designated as ARL, what's the implication of it down the road? I mean, you wouldn't be able to expand or anything like that? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's part of it. We won't be able to build any schools. And in some cases, like the Bethel Learning Center, located across from Bethel Middle School, that's on land that we redesignated ARL.
Wow.
So, there's no, what they're doing is it's simply saying if you have a certain soil type, you're gonna be ARL. Well, there are other purposes for land, and this is marginal land. I grew up, my grandfather was a East Nebraska corn farmer, okay? I know what good soil looks like. I grew up in the Red River Valley of the North, which has a 10-foot topsoil of the finest texture in the United States, according to the U.S. Geological Service. I know what good topsoil looks like. The crap they're talking about is, you can't plant a root crop on it. You might be able to grow grass. So,
Just for your information, one other thing, there was a court case several years ago on takings, and what you're talking about, if you don't block property for a purpose, and I'm talking about any citizen, and then they suddenly change that on you and it takes away the value, there is precedence out there, so.
well,
It sounds like you've got a lot of property tied
Well, we
up.
got a lot of concern because it'll really hurt what we can do. Anyway, just to warn you, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, put your antenna up, try to find out what's going on, because there's some implications there that nobody's talking about. Probably nobody's thought about because they don't want to think about it. But there are implications that are really kind of hurtful. Okay, well, let me get on to the kind of presentation here. I want to talk about, first of all, the Bethel School District in general. I know you lived here and everything, but I just want to let you know what's going on. And I apologize, I have to stand back here, okay? So this, of course, is Pierce County, and this is the Bethel School District. This is a pretty good sized piece of property. If you exclude the Federal Reserve lands for Joint Base Elizabeth Court, we have 202 square miles, about 1/9 the land mass of the county. Next. And if you take a look here, we're over here, let's see, this is 224th, 176, and we're right about here off the grid. But you can see that we've got, a big chunk of property all the way down here, house and Orville, highway over the river. And of course, over here, Joint Base Elizabeth Court, Roy is down here, so it's a big chunk of property. Next. So we got 1/9 the land mass, about 1/8 the population. Actually, it's 107,000 people now. And we had a demographic study done. There's another 20,000 people going to show up here in the next 10 years, another 3,000 kids. So we right now have 18,000 kids. We're about the 14th largest school district in the state, based on student population. In the county, Tacoma, of course, is first, and then Puyallup. We'll actually exceed Puyallup. We're going to build out. They're going to build out first, and then we're going to build out later. But we'll have more kids than Tacoma will. We've got 17 elementaries and 10 other schools. We have other programs, some of which are really brand new this year. Bethel Acceleration Academy to help kids that have already dropped out. And interestingly, these folks go in there and re-engage, and they're having some pretty great success.
And Tom, can I just interject? So they've got about 150 kids who were headed nowhere, who dropped out of school, nothing going on, and through the partnership we have now, that's about 150 kids that are going to go on and get skills and go on and get and graduate. And we know that for every decade of ungraduated seniors, it costs our nation about $1 to $2 trillion. And so we'd like to believe we're kind of doing our duty to try to make sure.
Congratulations on that. That's really cool.
So these are kids that not only didn't find success in the regular comprehensive high school, they didn't find success in an alternative high school. They've totally dropped out. And these people actually go out and bug them, basically, until they come back to school. And they really are remarkable folks. They're tenacious, but they also understand, and they have a way of getting these kids and getting them engaged and making them successful.
That's cool.
Tom?
Yeah.
Excuse my ignorance, but could you explain the Elementary Learning Academy and the Acceleration Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Bethel Elementary or Learning Academy, or Bella as we call it, is basically an opportunity for homeschool kids to access our resources. So we have on one campus over at Graham Elementary, they got a double portable over there, and they come over for classes, specialized classes, and parents come on over, and so they have a way of accessing some of the resources of the school district, but yet those kids, basically, their parents want them to be homeschooled. So it's a way to help those kids too. Yeah. And then you know about the Skills Center, we're the host for that, and trying to have a variety of programs to reach kids one way or the other. Yeah.
The Acceleration?
So what?
Acceleration, that's the one we talked about.
That's the one that we're talking about. The Bethel Acceleration Academy is an academy that's gone out to get the really hardcore dropouts and get them back. Matter of fact, they're on Pacific Avenue, where Cody Miller's office is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right next door. exactly one of his buildings. So Bethel in a way is not your typical K-12 school district. In a lot of ways, each of our individual schools are the core of that community, and it's the one governmental entity that kind of binds this entire area together. We don't have a city with exception of Roy. It's got 900 people on a good day. So in some ways, we act as that city that doesn't exist to the extent we can to try to bind this area together. And the same thing with the county. And I don't know about you, but I personally feel the county has largely ignored this part of the county for a really long period of time. I mean, I jokingly say the last recreational resource they gave to us was the dump. It was just one example. And
True.
well, yeah.
We're basically the cash cow for the rest of the county.
That's right. We're a satellite community for a bedroom for workers to go to Tacoma or up to Seattle, and they ignore us.
Tom?
Yeah.
If I may ask a question, I recently saw a Facebook posting, and I think, Chris, you had put it out about how much of our tax dollars go to really poor places east of the mountains. There's like, I don't know, 5-digit amounts of figures that go to those students, per student, versus 4 digits to our students. Do you remember that posting?
I didn't post that.
I thought I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird,
Well-
but how much money is collected here, and yet it's all going to Eastern Washington.
Well, there's a process where the state provides, called basic education, supposedly funding for that. It's never done full funding for that. But it's a certain basic amount, so every kid in the state, regardless of what the tax base of some eastern district is, which in many cases are really poor, they have a certain amount of money to work with. And then the local levy is what allows that amount to be supplemented. Because if you try to run a school district of our size and our caliber, frankly, on just what the state gives you, there's just no way to do it. You can't do it. So the entire funding picture, I mean, the McCleary lawsuit, I'm sure you've heard about somewhere along the line, is addressing that. But there's always, been a reluctance on the part of the legislature to actually fund basic education the way it's supposed to be funded. We're probably 15 to 20% short of what we really should have to do the job right, but we're doing okay with what we got. Okay, so anyway, we try to substitute for the city that does not exist and for the county in the regard that we get ignored. Next. Okay, academically, we are the most improved school district of our size in the state.
Woohoo!
There's 10 that are similar size. When I got here in 2001, we had the Wassel test. If you compare a Wassel test to a Wassel test, we were number 10 out of 10. If you take a look at the last round of tests that we got with MSP at HISP, we were number 3 from the top. Only Evergreen's above us, and the Pure Alps above that. And the trajectory for the subsequent tests all indicate that we still have an upward trajectory. So we're good, getting to the right place. The other thing to note is last year we had a 7.5 point increase in our graduation rate. Tacoma celebrated and got their name on the front page of the paper about their 7% increase. We topped that, and we weren't even mentioned. So we're doing some good things. We aren't perfect, we aren't at the top, but we're getting there. So good positive trends in all directions. Next. Okay, we've got some new things going to happen. We have this year a new Cambridge International curriculum over at Bethel High School. You may have heard of something called IB, International Baccalaureate. Cambridge is simply a different university in England. It's almost exactly the same program, but it's a little bit cheaper, and we can get it going up in 1 year's time, as opposed to more money and 3 years waiting time. So we have an opportunity there that'll help kids get into university or college, because it's an internationally recognized curriculum. Everybody understands what it's all about. It's all very consistent throughout the entire world, and it's a great curriculum. All-day kindergarten. As a result of the levy that passed, we had enough money to actually have all-day kindergarten for all kids. We just had a briefing by a couple of kindergarten teachers who last year were teaching half-day, and we actually have the statistical data based on at least one one test to show that our kids are not performing at a higher level. And the anecdotal information from the teachers say it's more than just that. It's just a whole bunch of other things. Our kindergarten kids are now having a full-day opportunity, and it's really starting to pay off. Matter of fact, we're probably going to have to warn the first grade teachers next year. They're coming to you more ready. You're going to have to adjust how you teach.
I can vouch for that.
Expanded blended learning. Blended learning is a term that we're using a different term now called digital learning, where basically kids are going to get a computer to be their device for learning. And it's actually a 3-year process of rolling this out. as the tax dollars become available from the technology levy. We just had the first small increment, because we have to wait till April to get the money. First increment, Spanaway Middle School, Elk Plain got some, Camas Prairie got some, and there's one other school that got, Challenger High School got iPads this go around. And it was interesting, we had one of the teachers over at Elk Plain who has been in the job for 20 years. You know, she's got gray hair. Her hair is longer than mine, but it's gray, kind of like mine. And you know, she was reluctant. She never had a computer before. Well, she had the computer for two weeks, and I just happened to walk in the office and said, "Hey, you want to come and see what my kids are doing with their iPads?" And she had her own iPad out there. She was flipping the, you know, she was acting like an old pro, doing this her entire life. So it's been a learning experience for her, but she's seeing the difference too. The kids are engaged. You got the darn thing in front of you. It's like, wow, this is really cool stuff. And so they're really paying attention, and you know, it's going to have a really positive impact on our abilities for the kids to learn what's going on. And the reality is, this is their world. If you don't have a computer in your hand, you know, well, Brent knows this stuff. I mean, if you don't have a computer in your hand, you don't know how to use the darn thing, you're never going to get a job. It's just the way of the world.
And Tom, this group knows better than anybody, because the last time we had somebody here from the building permits area, remember how they talked about how they remotely
Yes.
do the building permits, and
Yeah.
so
All the
they,
inspections.
yeah, all the inspections, things like that, and that they found that there's some people that if they won't adjust to that, they're gonna lose their jobs down there. And then the second thing is that other kids from around the world are gonna grow up in the digital era, and if we don't keep up with them, our kids won't get those jobs.
Yep.
It'll be somebody else from San Diego or somewhere else, so.
I think
this group knows.
I don't remember if I had a chance to tell this to this group, but about 4 years ago, I was at a conference down in LA, and I went into a restaurant on the way back home. It was an Italian restaurant, and I like Italian food. My wife doesn't, so we never eat Italian food anywhere around here. But I walked in there, and it was a remarkable experience, because here, 4 years ago, you walked into an Italian restaurant, and first of all, this place was packed. I mean, people wanted to get in there, so it was a really popular place. And the head honcho, you know, the maitre d' or whatever they call them nowadays, was walking around, and everything was on an iPad. It was all Wi-Fi, iPad, and the cash register was not a cash register, it was a computer. So the waiters or waitresses will be going around and taking the order on their iPad, boom, would go in the kitchen. This guy would be looking at the flow of orders and calculating what was time to bring out the next 50 pounds of pizza dough out of the reefer to get it ready for production. And so it was just, he was just walking around this thing and, okay, time to bring another one out. And it was just all computerized, all Wi-Fi, and there wasn't any paper receipts or anything. It was pretty remarkable. And that was 4 years ago, for pizza.
A group of us from here in the Cattle Chamber went through IKEA, and you talk about a computerized operation.
Oh, yeah.
Years and years and years ago, I worked for Sears in a warehouse, and we had several hundred people doing what 5 or 6 people could do at IKEA. It was just unbelievable.
Well, it's just like Amazon and
I mean,
UPS and,
That's
you know,
just one of our local.
yeah. Even the postal service, you know, the scanning capacity and everything else is pretty remarkable. That's where, you know, if you want to get a job, you got to know this stuff. So that's why we're doing this stuff for the kids. Okay, also, we're coming up for next year is dual language Spanish immersion program.
Woohoo.
This is a program designed for kids who speak English to learn Spanish.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you happen to have a kid who is a speaker, as a Spanish language speaker, you can also learn English. But the idea is, you know, the easiest way to learn a language is you just expose to it as a little kid. Well, I saw this, we were over in Spain, and our older daughter was 3 and a half. We put her into a Spanish school for 6 months, and she was a translator for my wife. Okay, and, you know, she understood that. He was like, yeah, Mom, the guy at the door is here to fix the sink in the kitchen. You know, after 6 months exposure to the Spanish language in school. So this is the easiest thing. It's going to be over at Thompson. We'll start with kindergartners and let it grow each year. Expand the digital learning we're talking about, and then Skill Center Phase 3, which I think you may have heard about. But that's the new building going up. We had a tour of the place 2-3 weeks ago. You're not going to believe it. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they got in there. And Jay, they had a chance to get over there?
They haven't been that, but of course that's where they want to be. But what I was going to say is, we promised this group that you'll have we'll have the first tour that we can available to get you as we get toward the summer.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It just, if you're into cooking, you'll be blown away by the resources they have over there. And the nice thing is, it's been laid out, so you can have a group of 10, 15 kids around one station. You mean, you go over to see what's being done here. You also have the big screen display, so they actually have cameras shooting it, you know, it's like one of those cooking shows on TV. So you got a big screen display of wherever they're pointing a camera at. So it is slick, and it's big. I didn't realize how big it was. We walked in the back door, which is kind of strange. I was trying to orient myself to the building, so this looks strange. Holy crap, holy cow. It's a big building. It'll hold 250 people at their tables, if you want to open her up, yeah.
And just so you know, all these things that Tom is talking about, whether it's, a Spanish immersion, for instance, I actually speak Spanish, and that's what